Coming up on Weather Underground, we are on top of breaking news ahead of the 2024 Atlantic hurricane season. The first seasonal forecast is out, and it's calling for an extremely active season. In fact, the Colorado State University forecast has never called for this many named storms in their April outlook before. So what's factoring into this extreme outlook? What past seasons with similar ingredients have looked like? And what the National Hurricane Center does with this information.
And the calendar may say April, but for 10 million people in the Northeast, it looks and feels like the middle of winter. Right now, a major nor'easter slamming New England with heavy snow and tropical storm force winds, putting hundreds of thousands of people, well, they're in the dark. We're going to illuminate the features that they're dealing with and time it out for you city by city.
Plus, just 4 days until America is dazzled by a coast-to-coast total solar eclipse. The excitement for the rare celestial event, it's palpable. And we know so much hinges on the forecast for Monday. We're diving into the models to see who could get the best view and who might get shut out. All these stories and more coming up right now on Weather Underground. Well, we start with that breaking news from Colorado State University. Their outlook for the 2024 hurricane season, it's foreboding and unprecedented, calling for 23 named storms. But Reynolds, even more importantly, 11 hurricanes, 5 majors. They've never put those high numbers in their forecast before.
Absolutely. And that forecast, if it verifies, that would mean, well, it'd be more named storms than we have on the 2024 name roster, which would put us into the supplemental list. This is Weather Underground. I'm meteorologist Reynolds Wolf alongside our hurricane expert and former director of the National Hurricane Center, Dr. Knabb.
Yeah, and this is an important outlook because the numbers, even though they don't tell you a whole lot about what's actually going to happen, because again, there's a big difference between how busy the season might be and how bad it might be. You know, we don't know where the storms are going to go, but I fear, though, we're going to have a few more chances at it this year.
Absolutely.
And so the chances of impacts are a little higher, and that should just motivate us to get ready.
When you saw this forecast, when it came out and you first glimpsed at it, did it surprise you?
It actually did not, because of what happened last year. We had a strong El Nino, but despite that, with the warm Atlantic waters, we still had an average number of hurricanes and majors in a strong El Nino year, which would usually lessen the hurricane activity.
Absolutely.
But the Atlantic fought back with those warm waters, which are still there this year. So you take away the El Nino, even if we don't go all the way to La Nina, this is an important point. We don't have to go all the way to La Nina to have these numbers actually verified. Just the absence of El Nino could allow, with the Atlantic warmth, to have a way above average year. And This, again, the last time they were even close to this high in their forecast was 2022 with 9 hurricanes and 4 majors. But either way, these numbers are way above the averages of 14, 7, and 3.
Folks, if you were searching for an expert, you're not going to find a better one than Dr. Knabb. Not only does he work here at the Weather Channel, but former director of the National Hurricane Center. Now, when you look at this, again, this is the thing that really you were talking about, the sea surface temperatures. These are just booming, aren't they?
Yeah, and this isn't just above average warmth in the Atlantic, which we've seen in some springs beforehand. But number one, these are record warm Atlantic sea surface temperatures that are warmer right now than they were last year at this time, and they were already record warmth for last year. And they're already as warm as you would expect to see in the second month of the hurricane season. Now, what's different now is that the El Nino is probably on the decline and will at least go to neutral during the summer and maybe to La Nina later in the year. But when you look at last year, again, despite the strong El Nino, which past strong El Ninos have usually sent the numbers a lot less than 27 and 3, the Atlantic was pretty busy last year. So you take away El Nino, it's not a shock that the seasonal forecasters would say we're expecting a busy year. But here's one thing I want people to realize that could be noticeably different this hurricane season than last. Look at the lack of hurricanes coming through the Caribbean last year.
Isn't that something?
That was El Nino.
My goodness.
That was the effect of El Nino. You take that away, the Caribbean is very sensitive to the wind shear produced by El Nino, so when that goes away, I would not be shocked to see more hurricanes coming through the Caribbean. that opens the door for something to get into the Gulf or up the East Coast, possibly.
Yeah, you were telling me before the show a conversation you had years ago with someone. You was gearing up to be a busy season, and the person that you were speaking to said, I know it's going to be a busy season. I hope bad things don't happen. You want to take that hope and apply it to action.
Yes. See, I think people tend to get very concerned when the seasonal forecast says what it does, and legitimately get afraid. But
yes,
if you just take that fear and just say, well, I hope a hurricane doesn't come my way, I get why you're saying that, but that's the wrong kind of hope. You want to turn the concern and fear you might have into action. That translates into real hope, such that if you know your evacuation zone and have your evacuation plan, you know where you're going to be when the storm comes, you have all your supplies, you've updated your insurance, you've got everything worked out. If a hurricane does come your way, and I hope it doesn't, but if it does, now you've got the advantage. You're not giving the hurricane the advantage.
Such an important point, Dr. Knabb. It's interesting. We think about all the names in the past, but when we apply it to what's in the future, you take a look at some of these names, you wonder, could one of the names on this particular roster, which you're about to see, could one be a future Katrina? Could you have a Harvey up here? You often wonder.
Yeah, which ones of these could end up being retired? Now, notice, this is the list from 2018 minus Florence and Michael that were retired 6 years ago. But which one of these names could end up being a big, bad, major hurricane? Yeah. But remember, a landfalling, slow-moving, wet tropical storm can be a disaster too. So we got to get ready for the wind, the water, from any intensity these might end up being.
Goodness sakes. Well, it is a heavy subject, no doubt. But you know what? You're in the right place. You're here at the Weather Channel. We're going to talk more about this coming up. We're going to dig more into it. Dr. Knabb gives us a glimpse at what goes on behind the scenes at the National Hurricane Center when these forecasts emerge and what kind of conversations they're having at the Hurricane Center for. I'm sure that's a pretty big discussion, no doubt. And ultimately, how you can apply this information to keep you, your friends, your family, your community safe. And you can take action right now.